Hello, welcome to Drawing Wild Washington. I'm your host, Jed Dunkerley, Associate Artist with the Burke Museum at the University of Washington in Seattle. In this program, we're going to be drawing life from the Ponderosa pine woodland. These are woodsy places on the east side of the Cascades and in northeast Washington around Spokane, where there's a lot of, you guessed it, Ponderosa pines. In this episode, we'll be drawing a mammal, the red squirrel, a bird, the white-breasted nuthatch, and an invertebrate, the Carpenter Ant. And if you have not watched the Drawing Wild Washington introduction, go back and do that first because it tells a lot about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why. So let's get started. The red squirrel, Tamiasciurus hudsonicus. We'll just call it the red squirrel. In real life, they're about a foot long. Here, we're going to start with the body, which is a big vertical oval. And I'm going to put it right about there. Okay, so it's kind of like a big egg. The head is a circle not quite half the size, and it's off the top right about 45 degrees, so about half right in there. Okay, so there's the head. The ears are skinny triangles off the top of the head, and they are next to each other, almost as tall, like real skinny triangles, almost as tall as the head itself. There are ears, but then there's tufts of fur coming off the top. It's kind of their signature, the signature move. Look like big horns. The nose is kind of another triangle off the lower end of the head, and it kind of cuts off. It's actually a trapezoid if you know your geometry. Okay, the arms are rectangles about half as tall as the head, and they come right off the body like this. And I'm going to do the squirrel in the pose that I always see it in, which is the holding a nut to nibble on pose. So we're going to do the arms over here, and then the hands are circles, a little bit wider than the arms, and then the fingers kind of come off like this, and then you can draw a little nut that they're holding in. And then I'll draw the back fingers as just some ovals holding that little nut right there. Okay, and then there's just a little bit in what's called negative space in between the mouth of the squirrel. Okay. The eye is going to be right in the middle of the head, and it's going to be a big circle. It's got a little bit of a brow above and below it. And then the nose is just kind of right in here. And there's the top of your squirrel. Okay. The rear legs are going to be an oval within the oval. So kind of like this. And then the feet come off. They're almost little triangles, sort of like little rabbit's feet. Okay. And they're toes come forward like that, so right there. And then the hardest part, I think, is this big tail. And it kind of makes an S curve like this, and it's almost as big as the body. So if you want to measure the body and then measure it out again, that's about how big the tail is. And then it kind of comes up and then meets back with the body like that. This big S curve. It's like a wave exploding off the back of the squirrel. And then it's got hair that kind of follows the direction. So I'm going to draw in some light lines showing the hairs like that. Okay. Now I'm going to darken in the squirrel. Focus. 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 What are you doing? There we go. Okay, I'm going to darken in the squirrel. Dark squirrel. Tell you a little bit about it. So as you can see, it loves eating seeds, and specifically the seeds of conifers, which are otherwise known as evergreen trees. One of the species is, the Ponderosa pine, hence the Ponderosa pine woodlands. I'm going to draw this eye, make it a little bit smaller, and I'm going to draw I'm going to leave a little white spot to make it look beady, little squirrel, beady squirrel eye. Okay, so you're drawing it in, darken it in, and leave one little spot light. Now we've got the arms coming up here. They are very territorial. That's one thing I've learned about them. And woe is they that invade the territory of the red squirrel. They are fierce and relentless. They will defend their territory with every means necessary. They do build nests up in the trees out of sticks. You might have seen squirrel nests before. That is where they bear their young, and raise their tiny pink hairless babies. You ever seen little squirrel babies? Okay, and you can take a lot of time if you want and go in and just put a ton of little tiny, they're pretty short haired though, and do hairy texture coming along here. The ears are a little bit darker, so I'm going to add a little bit of shading in there. And the tail is a little bit darker too, so I kind of drew the hair, but you can also go in and shade in that tail a little bit darker. Except the top part right here is a little bit lighter. So take a look at the photographs and then you can color it in if you want. And the fur kind of gets darker as you go down. But there's also some shading down in here. So there's your red squirrel. Okay. The other cool thing about them is that they store all their nuts and things that they eat in a central area, and then they sit and chomp on them, and all the parts that they can't eat fall down under the tree, and they do it in the same place time after time after time after time. And eventually they build these big piles up. So you can usually tell where a red squirrel keeps its nuts by looking at the big pile of sort of nut rinds called the midden underneath it. And you can find them on the forest floor. Okay, that's enough about red squirrels. Next up, our bird, the white-breasted nuthatch. Settle down, Beavis. Sitta carolinensis. They're called nuthatches because when they eat like tough seeds and nuts that are hard to crack, they'll jam them into little cracks in the trees that'll hold them, and then they'll peck at them with their beaks. Pretty crazy until the seed hatches, so they're called nuthatches. Their bodies are kind of half circles, and I'm going to draw it kind of angled down. In real life, they're less than 6 inches long, so that's like, I'm probably going to be drawing it about the size that they are in real life. So I'm going to start with a straight line, and then I'm going to draw like a circle coming down, almost like a slice of watermelon, coming down like that, okay? And then the head is kind of an oval that is kind of at the bottom corner. It's about a third the size of the body. So I'm going to put about a third the size there and put the head kind of like this. And then it kind of comes out from the body like that. And then the beak that it uses to hatch the nuts is like a long skinny triangle like this. Pretty fierce. I would not want this thing to peck at me. And then the eye is sort of right in the middle of this oval that we drew for the head. Maybe a little bit closer. And again, one of the reasons why we're drawing very light lines with a different color, so if we make mistakes, we can fix them. Then, next up, the tail is a rectangle off the other end, and it's about as long as the head. So, we're going to do a little rectangle off the end there. And the legs are lines off of the back curve of the body, and they're angled forward about 60 degrees. That's about 60 degrees right there. Okay, and I'm just going to draw one here, and then another one's coming in from the back. All right, now one of the coolest things about these birds is their feet. Okay, so they have toes going backwards and forwards, 3 forwards and 1 backwards. And they've got these massive hooked claws so that overall their feet take up about the same space as their head. Okay, so if I went from claw to claw, backwards to forward, their feet would be about the same as their head. Okay, so draw it again, curved. And they use these claws to be sort of like the daredevil acrobats of the forest. They can go upside down, they can walk down a tree like head first, and they can hang underneath branches. Pretty crazy. So I'm gonna finish drawing the patterns. There's a lot of patterns on the bird. So it's got this kind of stripe that goes down the middle of the head, and then kind of a crescent behind it like that. It's like it's got a helmet on it. And then it's got kind of an empty patch that's gray. And then it's got like a semicircle that's got this kind of striped pattern on it. Then it's got its wing, which is another like oval that's got a pattern that goes like this on it. And then these feathers, some of them actually come all the way back here. and go out kind of over the tail. Okay. Now I'm going to go in and then darken in kind of the important lines. Make sure I don't forget my mistakes. If I haven't said it before, I'll say it again. Totally fine to make mistakes while you're drawing. That's how you learn. Just make sure when you go back over it with your dark pencil that you remember where the mistakes were. All right, I'm going to curve around here, draw that sharp nuthatchy beak. Here's the eye. Give it a little bit of a white shine in the middle, like that. And it's got a little bit of like a corner that comes out, almost like a human eye. Then we're going to go over the top with that dark stripe. Pattern behind the head, darken that in. We're going to go to the back, draw those wings. Feathers are all folded up, kind of in a row like that. Like that. Leave this empty because it's kind of just some gray feathers. And then this is white. I'm going to shade it just a tiny bit. And then this part's all white down here. And then there's the tail. And if you want to draw it kind of on a piece of wood or something like that, draw those back claws. There is your white-breasted nuthatch. All right, next up we have the Carpenter Ant. This is our invertebrate. This is Camponotus. There's over 1,000 species of carpenter ants. They're very popular. All right, so drawing ants, like any insect, you got to get the body sections right, okay? So the head, I'm going to start in the front here. It's going to be an oval that faces down. Draw it about that big. Okay, and then it's going to connect to a longer oval, which is the thorax, which is pointed slightly down the other way. Okay, a little bit longer than the head. And then there's going to be a tiny little circle here for a thing called a petiole, which connects the last body parts. And then the abdomen. And this is another semicircle about the same length as the head, maybe a little bit bigger. And then kind of angled it the other direction. So it's like angle that way, then kind of flat, and then angle that way. Okay, and sometimes I'll use lines like that to help me figure out my angles. All right, next up, legs. The legs are pretty intense here. They have 5 parts for each leg, and they all originate from this part, the thorax. So I'm going to draw 3 kind of decent sized ovals. There's 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and these are the first parts of the legs. Now, I'm going to draw 3 legs, the ones on this side of the body, at the same time. So these are the big connector ovals, and then each one has a long rectangle up, which is as long as the thorax. So for the back legs, they go up like that, and then for this leg, they go up like that, and then for this leg, they go up like that. Okay, so 3 legs. Then the next part comes down at different angles. So this one's going to come down way back here. This one's going to come down right here, and it's kind of coming at you. It's coming at you. And then this one is going to come down like that. And then a couple little smaller pieces. So that one's there. That one, again, is coming at you, so it's hard to see it. And that one's kind of going by the head. And then smaller pieces that make up the feet of the ants. And they've got some little hairs on them. Okay, and that's basically what we've got. If you want to draw the second section, you can just kind of repeat the same shapes. And that's in the background. That one kind of comes like that. That one kind of comes like that. Okay, so let's put some more definition on this head. Okay, so the head, there's the mouth parts down on the bottom, otherwise known as the mandibles. We've got the eye, which is kind of an oval in the front part of the head. And then we got the antennae, which come off right in front of the eye, and they kind of have a little bit of a bend, and they're about as long as some of the legs. So you get these long antennae, which they use to communicate with each other and get some information from each other and the world around them. And as I'm going to start to draw in some of the details in here. So they build their nests inside wood, which is why they're called carpenter ants. And they chew tunnels out with their jaw parts, with their mandibles, just like carpenters do. Just kidding. They do build things out of wood, so that's why they're called carpenter ants. Which is cool when it's out in nature, and it's not so cool when it's in your house. So they can be pests to humans. But what do they know? They're not aware. They don't know what they're doing. They're just trying to live. Okay. Another cool thing they do is that they actually are farmers. They will farm aphids. They'll have herds of aphids, these little bugs that eat plants. And the aphids get their nutrition from the plants. Then there's all this extra sugar that they don't need, so they excrete it out their butts. It's called honeydew instead of aphid butt sugar, because it sounds better. And they'll go around to all their little aphid friends, and they'll tap them on the butts, and then the aphids will like poop out some butt sugar, and they'll eat it up. And it's delicious for them, and they get a lot of their nutrients from doing that. They'll also go out foraging at night, and they'll collect dead insects. Okay? And their colonies have multiple queens, like the queen ants. They have multiple queens in the same colonies, but they have to keep separate from each other so they don't fight. Kind of like the RuPaul's Drag Race. I'm going to color in. These ants are black generally, so you can color them in like that. Add a little bit of darkness. And you've got yourself a carpenter ant. And that's it for now for the Ponderosa Pine Forest. Thanks for watching. Let me put myself down in the corner here so I can say goodbye. There I am. Thanks for watching the Burke's Drawing Wild Washington. Until next time, don't forget, drawing involves seeing and thinking. So when you're looking at something, try to see the simple shapes that it's made up of. Think about how they all fit together. And if you use that process, there's really nothing you can't draw. So until next time, have fun drawing Wild Washington. What's that? You want more? Well, why didn't you say so? We've got coloring book pages available for each one of the ecosystems we've done a program on, and we've got the entire mural available as a silk-screened poster for purchase on the website. So check out the links and get yourself some more ecosystem art. Bye!